welcome everybody to the Monday, April 2020 session of the Lawrence Douglas County Metropolitan Planning Commission. We just have a couple of things to go through first. I think our host, Kyle, has a statement he wants to read for everybody before we start.
Thank you, Commissioner. My name is Kyle Kilby, and I will be facilitating the Zoom video portion of the meeting. With me here is Jeff Crick, Planning Manager. He will work alongside Commissioner Carpenter, who's on remote video, to facilitate the meeting proceedings. Currently, I have everybody muted so we can talk through the general ground rules for tonight's meeting. This is our first attempt at conducting a virtual Planning Commission meeting, so please be patient as we navigate this new format. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast live on the city's YouTube channel and public access cable channel 25. During the meeting, please mute yourself by clicking on the microphone icon found in the lower left-hand corner of the Zoom menu next to the video icon. When you are muted, a red line will appear over the icon. This will make it easier for everybody to hear the meeting. Just remember to unmute if and when you want to speak. In the menu, you can also turn your camera on or off by clicking the video icon located next to the microphone icon. For the purposes of this public meeting, please keep your video on for the duration. If you are participating by phone, you can enter *6 to mute and unmute your phone. Somewhere on your Zoom screen, you will also see a choice to toggle between speaker and gallery view. Speaker view shows the active speaker. Gallery view tiles all of the meeting participants. A few reminders to ensure that the provisions of the Kansas Open Meetings Act are met. Commissioners, you must state your name and title each time you speak. Members of city staff must also state their name and title each time they speak. I would also ask that the applicants and members of the public identify themselves each time before they speak to ensure that everyone is able to follow along. Individuals who signed up in advance to provide public comments remotely will be called upon by name. When you are called on, please unmute your listening device and state your name before speaking. The chair will then call for in-person public comment for those who are physically present. Staff will direct you to the podium to speak while following social distancing and safety protocols. All motions will need to be stated clearly. After a motion is made and seconded, the chair will call on each commissioner individually to provide their vote. The chair will then need to announce whether the motion carried and the count of the vote. I want to again remind everyone to please mute yourself when you are not speaking. And I'll now turn the meeting back over to our chair.
Thank you, Kyle. We just have a few housekeeping items that we need to go through as the Jim Carpenter chair. It's going to get old saying this, but we'll do our best. First is to receive the minutes from the February meetings of the Planning Commission. All the commissioners had the opportunity to review that. I look for a motion to adopt those. And as far as this goes, if you just kind of unmute and kind of know who's doing it and then announce who you are. Nobody's doing it.
Sam, so moved.
I have a motion to approve the minutes by Commissioner Sands. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
A second by Commissioner Willie. This time we have to take a roll call vote. Commissioner Willie.
Aye.
Commissioner Sands.
Aye.
Commissioner Carter.
Aye.
Commissioner Weaver.
Aye.
Commissioner Ashworth.
Aye.
Commissioner Sinclair.
Aye.
Commissioner Struckoff.
Aye.
Commissioner Payton.
Aye.
Commissioner Butler.
Yes.
And an aye from me. The motion passes 10-0. These next few questions are directed to Amy Miller, wherever she is, or to Jeff, if you can fill in for her. Do we have any additional written communications from the public other than those that came out to us today?
No additional communications. They're all in your packet.
Any waiver requests from the city engineer?
No.
This time I'd asked any of the commissioners to disclose any ex parte communications on any of the items. Does anyone have any? Commissioner Struckoff.
I received a phone call from Eileen Horn following her application, just to let me know that if we had any questions, or if I had any questions about her application, that they were available to answer them.
Thank you. Any others?
This is Karen Willie, Planning Commissioner. I also had a phone call with Eileen Horn, same content, and everything else is in the packet.
I also had a phone call from Eileen Horn, Sharon Ashworth. Phone call from Eileen Horn, same content.
All right. Thank you. This time, any commissioners are going to declare abstention on any of the items on our agenda tonight? Commissioner Willie.
This is Karen Willie, Planning Commissioner. And yes, I need to abstain from item 6 for the Willow Springs Fire Station because that's my fire department where I volunteer.
All right, thank you. That brings us to general public comment. General public comment was to have been submitted in writing prior to the meeting. We received none for this evening.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Sorry, Commissioner Sinclair, I need to declare an abstention before we move on.
All right.
Item number 5, I need to abstain from that for the same reasons as I did on a related item in February.
All right. Thank you. Any others? All right. That'll bring us to regular agenda item number 1. Consider approving a special use permit for a private dining establishment
Excuse me.
located at 917 Delaware Street.
Trying to interrupt.
No, you gotta get him in there. Excuse me, Commissioner Carpenter, this is Jeff Crick, Planning Manager.
Yes.
We need to also go through ex parte and the city engineer portion.
You already did
Can we do that when we get to the airport?
Correct. But we have the city engineers on that one, or I missed that item?
What?
Okay, so we're not at the airport right now, so we'll do that when we get back to the airport.
Yeah, excuse me, I'm out of turn on that one. My apologies, sir.
All right, thanks. Sorry, so that'll bring us to, we have a staff report on agenda item number 1. Sandy, someplace?
Good evening, Sandy Day, staff planner with the Planning and Development Services Office. This special use permit is for a type of eating and drinking use or a restaurant that's allowed in residential zoning districts. This particular special use permit is a reactivation of a use at that same address for the same activity under new ownership from the original special use permit that was approved this location in 2006. Private dining use is, as I mentioned, a type of eating and drinking use. It was created and defined and amended into the Land Development Code in 2006 to accommodate this very particular type of format as an accessory use to a residential dwelling, where the owner-operator both lives and resides in that residence and operates the private dining within specific limits that are set out in Article 5, the Land Development Code. The applicant proposes to reactivate this use at this location. There's no physical changes to the exterior of the property. There are some minor modifications to the residence that are required to meet building code that the applicant is working with city staff to address. The applicant is in attendance, and I believe there was at least one member of the public who had some comment, and they should be attending this meeting, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Sandy. Jim Carpenter, Chair, once again. Guess we'll come back and do the questions all at once, just to try to make this a little more manageable. This time, would the applicant care to speak to this application?
Yes, I would like to speak.
Can you please state your name and then go ahead?
My name is Rick Martin, and thank you, commissioners. I hope everybody is healthy and happy this evening. 917 Delaware has been a project that my wife Eileen Horn and I have been working on for about 6 months now. We intend to do a small, focused community type of dining space that embraces the history of East Lawrence, the vibe of the amazing Lawrence restaurant scene that we hope to see again very soon. We enjoyed the neighborhood as customers and diners of a lot of the other businesses that have come about in that in the arts district that has become such a wonderful part of our community. Our business model is to do about 150 to 200 events per year, kind of 200 being the high. And for reference, that's about 16 a month. And again, for reference, that the SUP states that we could do 260 per year, but three and a half per week is kind of what we have decided would be a really nice business model for us. We intend to be very complimentary to the neighborhood. I believe we've satisfied all the appropriate actions and questions that have been brought to us, and now we realize that we have a lot of new questions and things that need to be answered. We're currently working on a revised business plan to help us adapt to the pandemic era. We understand that there's a reality that we may not have a market for a business like this, or the market may adjust so much that our business model just doesn't seem like a successful model anymore. But we'll do our due diligence moving forward to make sure that all of our new questions are answered, and that we handle all of that intelligently and with great care, considering the crisis that restaurants and event spaces are in right now. So with that, I will leave it with you, commissioners, and any questions that you might have of us.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Jim Carpenter, Chair. We'll probably have questions once we get to that point. So if you wouldn't mind muting until somebody asks you a question. Thank you. I know we have one person asked for public comment. I'm sorry, I'm going to mess up your name, so I'm just going to ask if you go ahead and come in and say your name for us.
Are you,
Yes.
I submitted a letter, Uma Autka. Are you calling on me or someone?
Yes.
Okay, hi. We didn't really have anything additional to add necessarily to the letter that we submitted, but wanted to just show up and just reiterate the points there, make sure it was received, and if there was any exchange that might be necessary or helpful to the commission on any of the points that we raised there. Again, we support the plan as it can be done in a way that's compatible, and the parking and the noise issues were the two that we'd raised in the letter. So nothing in particular to add or take time on unless there are questions from either the applicants or the commissioners on those concerns.
Thank you, Ms. Uka. I'm Jim Carpenter, Chair again. I guess we have no other public comment has registered at this time, so this is kind of odd. So I guess we close public comment and bring it back to the commission. Any commissioners have any questions or comments for either the applicant or the Ukas? Commissioner Carter?
Yeah, David Carter, Planning Commissioner. I just wanted to ask the applicants whether they might have had a chance to review the Outka's letter, and if you had any comments, any responses to their requests about parking and noise.
Yeah, we did review that, and Eileen had a conversation over the phone as well. And music is not going to be a part of our business at the most. Possibly some small Sonos speakers that could be outside for our own enjoyment during the day, or possibly a reception type of event that might be outside. But we intend to have all guests inside. And the only thing that I've thought about was, if a small party breaks away from a dinner and wants to step outside to have an outside conversation, that might put a few voices out in the courtyard, but I don't think that it would be at any time anything different from any other residents in the neighborhood with 2 or 3 people having a conversation outside of doors.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Willie?
Karen Willie, Planning Commissioner. Yes, I just had a quick question. So the SUP that's currently held on the property that was issued in 2007, how long did that operate as a business? Because it sounds like it's not operating that way currently. So I don't know if that's a question for Sandy or if Rick Martin might know.
The question was, how long did they operate with the SUP in place?
Yeah, or how long has it been since they've operated? I imagine that's not an ongoing issue.
I think it's been since 2010.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Ashworth, I'm just wondering if there's any concern about not being able to have the agreement with the parking lot across the street at Allen Press, if there's been any issues with that.
Hi, Eileen Horn, co-applicant with Rick. So we have the draft parking lease in front of you all. We have not touched base with them post COVID-19 developments, but I don't anticipate that would change anything about them wanting to lease parking lot space. So we anticipate that if the project moves forward, that will move forward as well. And my understanding from our conversations with Sandy is that providing that off-site parking is a requirement of the special use permit of this approval process. So we know we have to have it to get it done.
And this is Sandy Day, planning staff. Just to confirm that, we would not release the special use permit until the lease agreement is executed. So it is a condition of the special use to have the minimum required parking associated with the activity.
Thank you, Sandy. Jim Carpenter, Chair. Sandy, during the 3 years about that they were operating as a business, were there ever any noise complaints or other complaints about that special use permit?
Nothing comes to mind. If there was, it went through our the other division of our department, so it's not something that came to my attention.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, somebody up to trying to do a Zoom motion?
Actually, Mr. Chair, can I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
Karen Willie, Planning Commissioner. Are we the deciding body on this, or does this get forwarded to the City Commission for final approval?
This is Sandy Day with the planning office. You are a recommending body for this action, so it will go to the City Commission for final action. There will also be an ordinance that we have to publish.
Thank you.
Any, Jim Carpenter, Chair, any motions? Commissioner Struckhoff.
I move that we recommend approval of SUP 20-00017, permitting private dining establishment in 917 Delaware, subject to the condition shown in the staff report and forwarding it to the City Commission with a recommendation for approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Struckhoff. Do we have a second? See a second from Commissioner Ashworth. This time, Jeff, do you want to do the roll call vote?
All right. Yes, we'll get that going here. Jeff Crick, Planning Manager. Commissioner Ashworth.
Aye.
Commissioner Butler.
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter.
Yes.
Commissioner Carter.
Yes.
Commissioner Payton.
Yes.
Commissioner Sands.
Yes.
Commissioner Sinclair.
Yes.
Commissioner Struckhoff.
Yes.
Commissioner Weaver,
Yes.
Commissioner Willie.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 10-0.
Thank you, everybody. Jim Carpenter, Chair. This moves us on to agenda item number 2. Consider approving a special use permit to permit a detached dwelling in the RM32 UC, which is the multi-dwelling residential urban conservation overlay zoning district for a property located at 1116 Tennessee.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Luke Mortensen. I'm a planning with the Lawrence Douglas County planning staff. As Commissioner Carpenter just mentioned, the second item is a special use permit for a detached dwelling use in the RM32 UC zoning district. So the reason this is before you tonight is there is a section in the use regulations of our land development code, section 20-508, that requires a special use permit for this use in RM districts when a majority of the adjacent uses on that side of a block face are not detached dwellings. So this would not be before you if the majority of the other houses on that block of Tennessee, on that block face, were detached dwelling. I'll kind of quickly go through some of the basics. It's going from 3 dwelling units right now, a total of 4 bedrooms, and it will be reduced down to 1 dwelling unit with the same number of bedrooms. There have been some exterior improvements. Those have been approved by the Historic Resources Administrator as we're located within the Oriad neighborhood. The physical structure will not be changing. There'll be some improvements to the rear parking area. The use, detached dwelling, requires 2 parking spaces. The applicant is providing 5 parking spaces, so we are going to have 3 additional parking spaces. I think that's about it for now. I believe a representative of the applicant is here tonight as well, and then you can also answer questions.
Thank you, Luke. Jim Carpenter, Chair. I think we'll hold all questions to do it all at once again. So at this time, would the applicant care to speak? That's you, Mr. Werner.
Yes, Paul Werner Architects. This is my 3rd Zoom meeting with city staff, so we're trying to figure out this new normal we're in. So thank you for doing this. Lucas did a great job. Appreciate the staff working through this as kind of an odd duck a little bit to get an SUP for a detached dwelling. But I really don't have anything. We're happy with the staff report. We're pleased how things have gone. We appreciate both Candace Davis and Marcy Francisco took the time to write letters in support of this. So we're just happy to finish the project and turn the multifamily house back into a detached dwelling, which is where it started. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Probably will be some once we get to that stage. This time we open this up to public comment. We have 1 person that has signed up for public comment, Marcy Francisco.
Good evening, Chairman Carpenter and members of the Planning Commission. I appreciate the opportunity to comment on this special use permit. I agree that Lucas Mortensen did a very good job on the staff report, and I also, as I noted in my letter, commended the owner for thus far making great improvements to this property. I submitted my letter of support because I'm pleased to see the 5 parking spaces that are identified on the site plan. My husband and I live at 1101 Ohio, and we are on the west side of that block. I think sometime in the 70s, the city vacated the alley behind our properties. So none of the houses, many of which are rental, have off-street parking. So parking has been an issue, particularly for this block. The idea that the blocks to the east would provide parking is particularly important to us. The other comment that I mentioned in my letter was that I know that there's shared trash service in the alleys. Years ago, we moved from individual trash containers to dumpsters. So I'm pleased to see that there's a pad that's available. I just wanted to note that I believe the size of that pad could be used for one dumpster or for 2 roll-off recycling containers, but not both. That doesn't bother me because the other services exist on that alley. So I think that provision is good. I don't know that they need to pave 10 foot for that, but I'm happy to continue to comment and work with the staff on what would be needed to provide that trash pickup. But again, that is something that we wouldn't see provided on a just single family residence that we are understanding will be provided because of this special use permit. So happy to answer any questions, and thank you all for being here on Zoom.
Thank you, Marcy. Jim Carpenter, Chair. This time we bring it back up to the commission. Look to the commissioners for any comments or questions to either the applicant, staff, or Marcy.
This is Commissioner Sands. Question for the applicant. If Paul's ready.
Yes.
Marcy mentioned the size of that pad maybe not being in concert with the rest of the neighborhood. Do you know if the owner is wanting to bust that up and change the size of it, or just leave it as is? Over.
Frankly, the trash in the alleys are a little bit like the parking. We want to get as much as we can. The city sanitation department really goes up and down the alley and looks for just spots, as Marcy mentioned, better spots for bigger dumpsters, smaller spots for more roll-off containers, which they're really trying to get rid of in the alleys. So for the most part, we pour a pad that we think works, that the sanitation department's asked for, and then they come up and down and just try to provide as much space as they can for the dumpsters that get used from, as Marcy mentioned, some of the properties have more space and some don't have any. So we provide the space and then let the city sanitation department kind of pick and choose where they want to put what.
May I comment?
Well, generally we wait for somebody to ask you the question, but I'll go ahead and ask you the question.
Okay. Well, I'm only commenting because this is a new pad. It's not an existing pad. So we're talking about the size of the pad that's on the site plan. And again, I am pleased that it would accommodate either a dumpster or the recycling containers, but I don't think it would accommodate both. I don't see that as a problem because we walked over to the alley and both dumpsters and recycling containers are available.
All right, thank you. Jim Carpenter, Chair, any other questions, comments? I have a question for, I guess, Mr. Warner first. I noticed from the site, well, the staff report talked about the increase in impervious surface area. What's causing the increase in the impervious area from what used to be there?
A great deal of it is obviously creating a large enough parking area tray off the alley. There's some additional sidewalks. I'd have to, I've got 3 devices going on. The trash dumpster, but it is almost all from the rear yard to create those extra parking spaces.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Werner. Jim Carpenter, Chair. I guess I have a question for staff. This time we're being asked to approve a special use permit for, it's kind of the reverse of what we usually get, that we're going to a single detached unit in a RM32 district. What would cause the cessation of this special use permit? And if that happened, then what would we see? Would it revert to RM32?
This is Luke Mortensen, planner. Let me repeat your question back to you so I make sure that I got it.
Right.
So are you asking if the special use permit was revoked or went away for whatever reason, what would happen?
Yes.
Well, at this time, it's scheduled for the May agenda at this point, but you will be seeing another text amendment for a discussion about permitting detached dwelling in RM zoning districts across the board, beyond this single case. So if that were to go through, in the future, detached dwelling would be a permitted use. So it would be a permitted use in that universe. If that text amendment does not go forward, I might revert back to Jeff Crick on this, but I think it would be, I guess, a non-conforming use. Jeff, is that correct?
So Jeff Crick, planning manager, if the special use permit was to be changed out where the use would fall back to a conforming use for the RM32, it would just go away at that point in time. It would require another special use to move back into that, as Luke mentioned with the text amendment, but otherwise it would just revert back to the permitted codes in Article 4 of the Land Development Code.
All right, thank you, Carpenter, Chair. Any other questions or comments from any commissioners? All right, seeing none, do we have a motion?
I'd make a motion. Aaron Payton, Planning Commissioner. I move that we approve a special use permit for a detached dwelling unit in the RN32 Urban Conservation Overlay District for a property located at 1116 Tennessee Street, based on findings in the staff report and forwarding to City Commission with a recommendation for approval.
Thank you. I have a motion made by Commissioner Payton. Do I second? I see a second from Commissioner Carter. Jeff, would you call the roll?
Certainly. Commissioner Ashworth?
Yes.
Commissioner Butler?
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Commissioner Carter?
Yes.
Commissioner Payton?
Yes.
Commissioner Sands?
Yes.
Commissioner Sinclair?
Yes.
Commissioner Struckoff?
Yes.
Commissioner Weaver?
Yes.
Commissioner Willie?
Yes.
The motion passes 10-0.
Thank you. That brings us to item number 3, and at this time, I guess I'll just do it for ease. I would move that the Lawrence Douglas County Metropolitan Planning Commission go into recess, and that we convene as the Airport Zoning Commission. Do I have a second to that motion?
Commissioner Sands, second.
Second from Commissioner Sands. I guess we have to do another roll call vote.
That's Jeff Crick, planning manager. Commissioner Ashworth?
Yes.
Commissioner Butler?
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Commissioner Carter?
Yes.
Commissioner Payton?
Yes.
Commissioner Sands?
Yes.
Commissioner Sinclair?
Yes.
Commissioner Struckoff?
Yes.
Commissioner Weaver?
Yes.
Commissioner Willie?
Yes.
The board is recessed to the airport.
That would bring us to item number 3 on our agenda, which is I guess 3 and 4 we can hear together. Is that what we'd like to do, Sandy?
at your discretion. I can give you a brief presentation of both of them together. You do have separate actions you need to take on the site plan and on the variance for the minor subdivision.
All right, thanks. Jim Carpenter, Chair. I'm going to announce both items then, and then we could just get possibly one presentation and then open it up for questions. So these are item number 3, which is consider approving a site plan for construction of a 19,176 square foot building located at 1904 Airport Road, and to consider number 4, consider approving a minor subdivision lot combination for Lawrence Municipal Airport Edition number 4. So Sandy.
Thank you. Sandy Day, staff planner with the Planning and Development Services Office. The airport is covered by the Airspace Overlay District. That's an overlay to the zoning. The Land Development Code establishes certain performance standards applicable to uses and development activity. For use requests and development application, the Planning Commission is designated as the Airport Zoning Commission and is charged with the review of all permit applications and the determination if that application conforms to the overlay district regulations. We provided a staff report summarizing those details for you. The project is for the construction of a new hangar building located immediately south of the hangar that was recently constructed to the east of the terminal building. The Airport Zoning Commission has acted on this item in March of 2019. This application represents the second phase of that planned improvement submitted by Hetrick Air Services. The minor subdivision revises interior lot lines and shows the vacation of Bryant Way. And I would refer you to the airport layout plan in your packet. During the review, staff met with and consulted a number of times with the FAA regarding long-term plans for the municipal airport. The master plan document, or the airport layout plan, shows how the airside and the non-airside uses of that property would be used. During the review with FAA, it was determined that Bryant Way, platted in the early 2000s, did not align with the airport layout plan that was subsequently approved, and that it could potentially frustrate airport development. And for those reasons, staff recommends and supports the vacation of Bryant Way as shown on the minor subdivision. The minor subdivision is generally administrative, but subject to a variance that's described in the staff report that specifically allows for the deferment of construction of public sidewalk along Airport Road, and also for the deferment of the construction of Taylorcraft Road with its attendant improvements, including public sidewalks. So that's really the variance that you're looking at, is non-construction of Taylorcraft Road and non-construction of sidewalks at this time for the minor subdivision. I'm happy to answer any questions. I believe the applicant is in attendance along with his design professional.
Thank you, Sandy. Jim Carpenter, Chair. This time, ask if the applicant would like to speak.
C.L. Maurer with the Land Plan Engineering, applicant's rep. I don't know if Lloyd is actually online. I haven't seen it. He was going to watch one on TV, but we're in agreement with staff, and we're here to answer any questions if something's not clear. But staff and Land Plan have worked, along with Lloyd, very diligently on the last 3 months trying to get this thing to a point where both the aircraft hangar can be built and up to standards for what could be a nice addition to the airport. So I'm open to any questions. Thanks, Sandy.
Thank you, Mr. Maurer. I wasn't notified that we had any public comment on this. Is that correct? Kyle or Jeff? Or any public comment on these items?
Jeff Craig, Planning Manager, correct. We don't have any public comment. We just have the applicant available for questions if you have any.
All right, thank you. Bring it back to the commission, open it up to the commission for any questions or comments to either staff or the applicant. I see nobody jumping on that invitation. Do we have a motion on item number 3?
Commissioner Sands with a motion. I move that we consider approval of a minor subdivision MS 19-00569 lot combination for Lawrence Municipal Airport Edition number 4. And that is for approval. Is that correct?
I believe so. Is that correct? This is just for us to approve?
Jeff Crick, Planning Manager, that's correct. The board would be approving the site plan.
Okay. I have a motion made by Commissioner Sands. Do I have a second? Seconded by Commissioner Willie. I hand wave. Any further comment on the motion? Seeing none, Jeff, if you would call the roll.
Certainly. Jeff Crick, Planning Manager. Commissioner Ashworth.
Yes.
Commissioner Butler.
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter.
Yes.
Commissioner Carter.
Yes.
Commissioner Payton.
Yes.
Commissioner Sands.
Yes.
Commissioner Sinclair.
Yes.
Commissioner Struckoff.
Yes.
Commissioner Weaver.
Yes.
Commissioner Willie.
Yes.
Motion passes 10-0.
Item number 4, any further discussion or motion on item number 4?
Commissioner Sands, I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to move to approve a minor subdivision MS 19-00569 lot combination for Lawrence Municipal Airport Edition number 4.
I have a motion by Commissioner Sands. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Willie, again by a hand gesture. Any additional comment? Seeing none, Jeff, if you call the roll.
Jeff Crick, Planning Manager. Commissioner Ashworth.
Yes.
Commissioner Butler.
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter.
Yes.
Commissioner Carter.
Yes.
Commissioner Payton.
Yes.
Commissioner Sands.
Yes.
Commissioner Sinclair.
Yes.
Commissioner Struckoff.
Yes.
Commissioner Weaver.
Yes.
Commissioner Willie.
Yes.
Motion passes 10-0.
Thank you, everyone. That'll bring us to agenda item number 5, which I believe Commissioner Sinclair is going to be leaving us on. Kyle, if you could go over the procedure for Commissioner Sinclair to abstain himself on this, please.
On Kyle. Commissioner Carpenter, this is Jeff Crick, Planning Manager. We need to adjourn the Airport Zoning Commission and reconvene planning.
I know what you're going to say. This time, I'm going to make the motion that we adjourn the meeting of the Airport Zoning Commission and reconvene the meeting of the Lawrence Douglas County Planning Commission. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Sands. Jeff, once again, roll call.
Jeff Crick, Planning Manager. Commissioner Ashworth.
Yes.
Commissioner Butler.
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter.
Yes.
Commissioner Carter.
Yes.
Commissioner Payton. Okay. Commissioner Sands.
Yes.
I believe Commissioner Sinclair has already recused. Oh, Commissioner Sands.
He already answered. Sinclair
Yes.
is yes.
Okay. Commissioner Struckoff.
Yes.
Commissioner Weaver.
Yes.
And Commissioner Willie.
Yes.
The Airport Zoning Commission is adjourned and reconvene as the Lawrence Douglas County Metropolitan Planning Commission.
Thank you. That brings us to item number 5. So now we're going to lose Commissioner Sinclair. I'm not sure if you heard the process. Oh, there he goes. All right. So Commissioner Sinclair has left our Zoom meeting at this time. So we'll call item number 5. Consider approving a request to rezone approximately 0.86 acres from Planned Unit Development District to Open Space Floodplain Development Overlay District in the 1800 block of Quail Creek Drive.
I advised
This time, Sandy, does have the staff report?
Hoop to come back in.
Sandy Day, staff planner with the Planning Development Services Office. This rezone was initiated by the Planning Commission at the February meeting, along with the actions that you took previously to approve the preliminary plat for the Quail Creek subdivision and a rezoning for RS10 zoning. The property included in this request is shown on that preliminary plat as tracts that have floodplain rolling through it. Staff's recommendation was to rezone the tracts to OS with the floodplain overlay district. This follows that action that was recommended and initiated by this body in February. The surrounding area includes the golf course as well as a number of residential lots and subdivisions in the immediate area. This is simply one more step in that subdivision approval process that the applicant is moving through. In this particular application, the city is essentially the applicant because we are the ones initiating the rezoning. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Sandy. Okay, we've also now heard from the applicant. To open this up to public comment, again, Kyle, I don't believe anyone is signed up to speak on this one. Is that correct?
Kyle Kobe with planning. I don't see anybody on my list.
All right, thank you, Jim Carpenter, Chair again. We did receive one letter, so at this time we'll bring it back to the commission and open the floor to any comments or questions by any of the commissioners to the staff applicant.
That's okay. Since this is right here, it's like messing with me. Oh. There are enough things going on that are messing with me already.
Anyone have any questions or comments? Okay. I have one question. With the floodplain overlay district, does that provide more protection to the neighbors in a way to address the concerns that were in the letter that was submitted?
It doesn't, I'm sorry, this is Sandy Day with the planning office. It does in fact provide additional protections because it further restricts the ability for a property owner to make any improvements on that property. With regard to the letter and the communication that we received from the resident in the area, this was the same concern that was brought up back in February. Part of what is going on is occurring upstream from where this particular development activity is taking place. It's an issue between the owner of the golf course and the property owner. At this point in time, the culvert that is referred to that's undersized is private infrastructure. It's not the city's. There's really no watershed planning at this time to speak of. That would come about if and when the owner of the golf course ever chooses to abandon the golf course and to bring forward some kind of development request. At that point in time, yes, it would be subject to municipal review for appropriate utilities, stormwater runoff, those kinds of elements. But at this point in time, unfortunately, as we have counseled that property owner, it's a civil matter between them and the owner of the golf course.
Thank you, Sandy. Jim Carpenter, Chair. Any other questions or comments from any commissioners? Motions?
I'd make a motion.
Okay. Commissioner Payton.
Aaron Payton, Planning Commissioner. I move that we approve the request to rezone 0.86 acres included in proposed tract A and B as shown on preliminary plat of Quail Creek from PUD to open space floodplain development overlay district based on findings in staff report and forwarding to City Commission with recommendation for approval.
Thank you, Commissioner Payton. I have a motion. Do I have a second? See a second by affirmative hand wave by Commissioner Ashworth. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Jeff, if you call the roll, vote.
Jeff Creek, Planning Manager. Commissioner Ashworth?
Yes.
Commissioner Butler?
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Commissioner Carter?
Yes.
Commissioner Payton,
Yes.
Commissioner Sands,
Yes.
Commissioner Struckoff,
Yes.
Commissioner Weaver,
Yes.
Commissioner Willie.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0 with one abstention.
Thank you, Jeff. So this time, let's bring Commissioner Sinclair back into the meeting. And before we start item number 6, I believe Commissioner Willie is going to be leaving us on this one. Welcome back, Commissioner Sinclair. Item number 6, consider approving a conditional use permit for a public or government building, Willow Springs Fire District Number 3 Fire Station, located on approximately 5 acres in the northeast corner of the intersection of US Highway 56 North 300 Road and East 1100 Road.
Good evening,
And
Commissioners.
Mary's
I'm
here
Mary Miller.
someplace.
Pardon, yeah. Mary Miller, planner, and I apologize, my camera is not working today. But as you said, this is a conditional use permit for a new fire station building. Right now, Willow Springs Fire District Number 3 shares the Willow Springs Township building that's on the west side of East 1100 Road. And with this CUP, that would allow them to build a dedicated fire station for themselves on the east side of the road. And as shown in the plans in your agenda packet, they intend to put the building and the parking lot in the northwest corner of the property. The applicant did call me today and informed me that they've located the rural water district line. These aren't always known. They're not always in easements. And so it turned out that it's about 35 feet inward from the right-of-way line. So they're going to have to move the building and the parking lot about 35 feet to the east. They have plenty of room to do that. But I just wanted to let you know that it's just going to be a little bit more to the east. And I advise the applicant to make that change to the plan so when it goes to the county commission, they'll see the actual location. With the conditional use permits, as you know, we look at the golden factors and the criteria, and these are discussed in the staff report. We don't expect any negative impacts since there's already a fire department in the area. It's just going to be moved to the other side of the road. The only impacts we could foresee would be the parking lot lights, as there's a residence right to the west of where the fire station parking lot would be. And so the applicant has shown on the plans some screening, landscaping. And there's always the chance that site lighting could create light trespass or glare. The applicant doesn't have their lighting fixtures selected yet, but when they do, they'll provide spec sheets to the planning office. And that way we can review them to ensure that they're not going to glare off-site or result in any off-site light trespass. So we find that the golden criteria and the review criteria in the zoning regulations have been met. And we recommend that you forward a recommendation of approval to the county commission, subject to that condition that the lighting spec sheets be provided for approval prior to the release of the plans for building permits. And I'll be happy to answer any questions. And the applicant, Clint Hornberger, he's here as well if you have any questions for him.
Thank you, Mary. Jim Carpenter, Chair. Does the applicant wish to speak?
I really don't have anything to add other than what's in your packet. If you all have any questions, I'd feel free to answer them.
And could you just give us your name for those that don't have?
Clint Hornberger, the Assistant Chief of Willow Springs Fire District 3.
Thank you. All right. Again, Kyle, I see that I wasn't notified that we had any public comment on that. Is this correct?
Kyle Kobe with planning. There's nobody on my list either.
Thank you. At this time, we'll bring it back to the commission. Any questions or comments to staff or the applicant? Commissioner Carter?
David Carter, Planning Commissioner. Just have a question of clarification for Mary. The residence that is to the west, did you say to the west of the site? My understanding, looking at the site plan, what's directly to the west is the township office. Is this maybe a residence to the north of the township office?
Right, it's to the north of the township office. So from where the parking lot and the access drive is, the residence is pretty much just west of that.
Got it. Thank you so much.
The township itself is directly west.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I'm sorry, this is Mary Planner.
Okay, Carpenter Chair, any additional questions or comments? Seeing none, do we have a motion? Commissioner Struckoff.
I move that we approve the conditional use permit for a public and government building for Willow Springs Fire District Number 3, and subject to the condition found in the staff report, and forward that to the county commission with a recommendation for approval.
Thank you, Commissioner Struckoff. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second for Commissioner Sinclair. Any further discussion on the motion? Commissioner Carter.
Yeah, David Carter, Commissioner. Just want to ask whether we should add the additional condition that the site plan be updated with the change that Mary mentioned. Is that something we need to make as part of the motion? Or is that understood? Staff, Mary or Jeff, do you have any recommendations there?
Jeff Crick, Planning Manager. I would recommend that be part of the motion. That way we can record it and send it on correctly.
Are you proposing an amendment to the motion then, Commissioner Carter?
I assume that that's the movement of the building farther to the east to accommodate the, yes.
Exactly.
Then let me amend my motion to include the movement of the building to the east on the site plan.
We have an amended motion. Commissioner Sinclair, will you second that one?
I still want to second it, yes.
All right, thank you. Any additional discussion or questions? It was a good catch.
Thanks.
All right, seeing that, Jeff, if you would call the vote.
Jeff Crick, Planning Manager. Certainly. Commissioner Ashworth.
Yes.
Commissioner Butler.
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter.
Yes.
Commissioner Carter.
Yes.
Commissioner Payton.
Yes.
Commissioner Sands.
Yes.
Commissioner Sinclair.
Yes.
Commissioner Struckoff.
Yes.
Commissioner Weaver.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0 with one abstention.
All right. Jim Carpenter, Chair, that concludes what's on the agenda. That brings us, we can bring Commissioner Willie back in if she's still there. Welcome back. Are there any other business to come before the commission this evening?
Jeff Crick, Planning Manager. At this time, staff does not have any additional business for you tonight.
All right, thank you. This time, I look for a motion to recess our meeting to reconvene at 6:30 on Wednesday, April 22nd, 2020. I have a motion from Commissioner Struckoff by an affirmative hand wave. Do I have a second? Second from Commissioner Sands by an affirmative hand wave. Jeff, if you would call the vote.
Jeff Crick, Planning Manager. Certainly. Commissioner Ashworth.
Yes.
Commissioner Butler.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Carpenter.
Yes.
Commissioner Carter.
Yes.
Commissioner Payton.
Yes.
Commissioner Sands.
Yes.
Commissioner Sinclair.
Yes.
Commissioner Struckoff.
Yes.
Commissioner Weaver.
I think I heard him say yes.
I believe Commissioner Weaver has indicated in the affirmative, and Commissioner Willie.
Yes.
That is a motion to adjourn, or excuse me, a motion to recess is 10-0 in the affirmative.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you to staff for making this all work for us tonight. See everybody again on Wednesday. Take care.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you, Kyle.
Nice job, you guys.
Good job.
Thank you. See you Wednesday.
Bye.